That and Tom. I could ask you the same question, mate. I could ask you the same question. Let's get you on then.
What's happening, my brother?
What is happening?
What's going on with you? You all good?
Mate, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. All good. Can't complain.
Look, I downloaded that app. You know the app you sent me?
Which app now is this?
The app for saving content, for downloading the
Oh, yeah,
videos.
yeah.
So I think we should just like randomly talk off the cuff and then anything. I've actually got a topic.
You know what? I had a topic for you too, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, man. So we can roll with yours or we can roll with mine. I'd say we roll with mine, like, cause it's just because I forget it, like, you know what I mean?
All right, what's your topic sound like? We
Well,
decide.
it's kind of to do with your neck of the woods over there in England, actually. You know, it's something to do with that. Like, cause I never told you this, man, but I used to work in England for a small bit. You know what I mean?
Whereabouts?
I worked. I can't even remember the name. I think it was like Buckinghamshire or something like this. Somewhere.
Buckinghamshire. That sounds like the fucking palace where the Queen lives.
No. It might not have been Buckinghamshire. It could have been. It could have been somewhere else, man. I don't know. Hertfordshire it was. Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire.
Very,
Yeah, Hertfordshire.
very
Yeah.
close to Stansted Airport.
Yeah,
It's kind of close to Stansted
kind
Airport.
of close. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, you know, my uncle, you know, he's a headmaster of a school over there in England, you know. So like
Right.
when I was younger, I was doing the tennis coaching. Like he used to basically, he gave me a job over there over in England, you know. He gave me a job when I was younger because I needed a bit of pocket money or whatever, you know. So he said, come over, Tom, you know, you can kind of live with us for 3 months and you kind of come back and forth there, you know. So, like, man, I was literally part of the rat race over there in England, man. I saw how it is to work over there and to commute back and forth and stuff like this, you know what I mean? Like, for real, like, and we were waking up every single day at, I'd say, about, Jesus, what time were we waking up? About like 5 in the morning, and we were traveling 2 hours in rush hour traffic. You know, he was
Oh, man.
listening to BBC Radio 4. Now, he's absolutely obsessed with BBC Radio 4 and
Yeah, it's
politics
a
every
terrible
morning.
radio channel as well. The
And you know,
traffic's bad about that kind of shit, gang.
yeah, like, you know, for like a 16-year-old, when you got to listen to BBC Radio 4 at 5 in the morning,
Man, that's like torture.
that's painful. That's real painful, man. You know. But so like we used to go there every day, and like we'd work all day and stuff like this, and then we kind of come home in the evening, another 2 hours in the rush hour traffic and stuff. And I said to myself, I was like, man, like this life here, man, this is tough going doing this life. You know what I mean? Like you got to really love this type of stuff to do it continuously, because I was drained. You know what I mean? That was all we did. You know what I mean? We literally like went there to work. We came home and I went to sleep then, man. I went to sleep straight away. I had no time for nothing. You know what I mean? And that's it. Like, you know what I mean? That's quite a situation.
Well, do you know what? The traffic in London is terrible. So basically, London we have a motorway. It goes around the outskirts of London. It's called the M25, and it's an absolute nightmare of a motorway. You can spend many of hours sat there on that motorway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel your pain, mate. There's nothing worse than travelling around that bloody motorway.
Yeah, man. It was tough going, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I was only doing it for the money as well, do you know what I mean? And even after it, like, I had the money saved up, and then I kind of said to myself, I was like, wait, so what am I going to do with this money now? Like, do you know what? I'll go on holiday for 2 weeks, and then what? It's over, is it? I was like, damn, that wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? I was like, it'd be better if I just stayed home. You know what I mean? I would have been better
What
off. Like,
was you
so.
tennis coaching over here?
I was tennis coaching over in the school, yeah. In the school, like, you know, so
You
that's
got
kind
you
of,
obviously done this quite seriously, this tennis coaching malarkey. Like
yeah,
you
man,
obviously
I was big into tennis coaching for real, man. I was going to be a professional tennis player, you know what I mean? Like, I was like 6 in Ireland, you know, and I was training with all the guys over in Germany, you know, like these pro players and whatnot, you know what I mean? So I was huge into it, you know. And then I kind of just said to myself, go and do tennis coaching because, Emma, what's happening? Go and do
yeah,
tennis
see that
coaching because,
checking in.
Emma don't miss one, you know what I mean?
You don't miss nothing.
But so I said to myself, I was like, no, I'm gonna do the coaching or whatever. But I was huge into it, man. I love that shit, you know. But you know, it was kind of coming from parents as well too, pushing me to become a professional tennis
Yeah.
player. You know, like I originally wanted to play soccer. You know, I wanted to play football. I wanted to play team sports. You know, but they were like, you know, don't play a team sport, because if you play a team sport, you know, like you win and it's like the whole team win. You know, you never do it for yourself. You know what I mean? So like, go play an individual sport, and then you can kind of like get the glory for yourself type thing. You know what I mean? Or you can. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so they were pushing me into individual sport. They were like, if you win for yourself. If you lose, it's your fault. You know, so this is what you need to do to become a man. And I was like, all right, yeah, man, whatever. Like, you know, but
Have you always been drawn to fitness, to like
I'd say more pull
exercise,
to it.
or is that something you was more pushed towards?
I'd say pushed.
Pushed.
Yeah, but then
'Cause
after a while, I kind of got a bit brainwashed. You know what I mean? I got brainwashed, so I was kind of like, you know, I kind of really liked this thing. You know what I mean? And I thought I liked it,
yeah.
but it's tough going. Like, to become a professional tennis player, man, you got to have something wrong with you. Basically, you got to have a few screw loose in your head, you know, to become a professional. Because, like, you know, like you're playing every day out in 40 degrees heat. You know what I mean? You're playing in 40 degrees out here, like, you know, and you're training 4 hours a day, and you're going to the gym for another hour, and you're watching what you eat, and all you do is eat, sleep, drink, and breathe tennis. That's all you do to
Yeah.
become a professional player. Like, there's no other room
Obsessive.
for other type stuff. You know what I mean?
So how comes that all come to an end then?
I wouldn't say it come to an end, but you know, I just kind of wanted to go a different direction from it. You know what I mean? I felt like I got all that I can get out of it, and you know what? I felt like I was being more of like a meditation coach to these guys on the court. You know what I mean? I was being more of a psychological trainer to them. Like, you know, I was doing mindset with a lot of them. You know, like a lot of the pro players there. You know, like there's one guy, Peter Torebko over there in Germany. You know, like he was like 80. He was like top or whatever. You know, we'd do a training, and we'd end up just sitting there like talking about his mental stuff he's got going on. You know what I mean? For like half an hour or whatever. You know. He'd be like, man, I can't concentrate. And I went into all the mental side, and I was like, you know what? This is what I need to be doing. You know what I mean? I need to be doing something with mindset, like with this type of stuff, you know, because I kind of just have a feel for it. You know what I mean? I have a feel for it because I feel like I've been through this stuff myself. You know what I mean? I feel like I can just give them the advice which they need and whatnot. So that's just what I done, you know? I kind of went away from the whole tennis thing. I, I, all the time. So after a while, you're like, oh, I need to switch up from this. You know what I mean? Got to do something else. So that's what I done, man. You know.
So, I don't know whether it's been the same for you, but throughout my whole life, before I even come into like sort of spiritually awakening, like people always were drawn to me. I'd always, for some reason, and now more than ever, people just opened up to me. You know, and it wasn't even necessarily people that I was massively close with, just like random people. Like if I was at a day's work and there was a couple of, random guys on the job, you know, I've just found that my whole life people just randomly just open up.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but, well, obviously because I'm very receptive, but I didn't really understand that to start off with. And now, do you know what? What I find now is, before I used to always, when I was engaging in conversations, I kind of always wanted to have something to say in the conversations, but I've actually found through my own awakening that for some reason I'm much more powerful in just being an open space for other people, and not even like, I went through this sort of stage where I always wanted to help people, where it was important for me to give something, so somebody walked off and I was able to impart some wisdom or impart some knowledge or impart something that had actually transformed their life. I've actually come to find over the years that the biggest part of healing that takes place in me is just by being an open, receptive space to other people and just allowing people to talk without even needing to communicate or even to give any information, but to just be open and receptive. And that's
Yeah.
something that's been with me my whole life. That ability to just let people just, I don't know, just unload.
Yeah, like
You know what I mean?
that's part of the 12 steps program for drug dealers or for drug addicts and stuff like this.
Emma's just put, I'm that random person. Hello.
But like like the 12 steps program over there in England, or it's everywhere actually. The 12 steps when you're trying to get off drugs and whatnot, like, you know, that's actually one of the steps, I believe, because Russell Brand was saying this in one podcast. Russell Brand was saying, like, he said, in order to get other people, no, in order to remain sober, he's like, you
Yeah.
need to go help other people. You know what I mean? Like, helping other people is very therapeutic, they say. So
Yeah.
if you're trying to stay on the right path, you know, getting out there and, you know, really giving people solid advice and trying to genuinely help, you're kind of also reinforcing your own wellness too, in a way, you know what I mean? Like, just by kind of giving out good advice and by being there for someone and being the ear, you know. But I felt the same way, man, you know, when I was on the tennis court. I had all types of people kind of come up to me on the court and stuff, you know, and they'd be like, Joe, they'd start sometimes bursting out into tears, you know what I mean? They'd come to me with their problems, they'd be like, I can't cope anymore, you know what I mean? But I think when people see that you're not like a judgmental person, you know, then they kind of feel more comfortable to approach it, you know what I mean? When they know that, look, this person isn't going to judge me, this person's just going to give me a nice open ear, and they're going to listen to what I have to say, like, so this is kind of, you become approachable, and I think meditation makes you into this type of person, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
I think a lot of people are like, you know, especially people that come into this sort of density with natural, like people like me, people like you. There's like we come in and we're a lot more sensitive because awakening awakening happens to us. It's accelerated, you know. There's that, like, I know in this incarnation that I come here for the sole purpose of helping raise levels of consciousness. So I kind of feel that I'm already quite a well-developed consciousness myself. So when I come into this existence, my awakening and the shift into consciousness was like a really accelerated. And I feel like the people that are sensitive to consciousness are the ones that are receptive to other people. And you know what? I've got a great topic that I want to talk about on this live today, and I'm hopefully going to be able to edit and post a little bit to my YouTube. Great opportunity. Anyway, just join us, ladies. But I'll be posting a lot more content on my grounded_UK YouTube channel, where you'll probably find a lot more of these chats. But like, I've got a real topic that I want to talk about today, and that's the dark night of the soul. I don't know what your take is on it, but I'm going to give you my take on what the dark night of the soul is and what it actually is when we go through an awakening. So the dark night of the soul is when our consciousness, for me, my dark night of the soul was when I had a moment of complete self-realization of consciousness. But the dark night of the soul is really when your whole reality breaks down. And the reason why your whole reality breaks down is because as your whole reality breaks down, it really, it brings out the shadow aspects in yourself. So for me, like, I really went through the dark night of the soul when I found out a few things happened in my life. And in one moment, I lost a 10-year relationship. I lost my house. I lost my family unity. I lost my love for bodybuilding. I lost my love for everything. And I found myself living back at my mum's house, waking up at like crazy times in the morning and forgetting what had happened to me. And then I'd have the realization that my whole life has just fell apart. And when I moved into my mum's place, I was still a steroid addict. I was taking steroids for 7 years. And I was still a weed addict, so I was still smoking weed. But what actually happened was, in my dark night of the soul, my whole world, my whole reality, everything that was held together came crashing down. And as that came crashing down, what I was left with was everything that held it together. And, you know, so people don't quite understand what a dark night of the soul is. A dark night of the soul is many levels. The first level is your external reality completely crumbles. And then the second level, as that reality crumbles, all of the shadow that you haven't, all of the unconscious parts of yourself then come to the surface. So the dark night of the soul is the crushing of your existence to bring about the shadow, to create awareness of the shadow. So after my life fell apart, you know, I went through a long period of like real deep sort of trauma, where I was experiencing all of this hurt and all of this pain that had been sort of suppressed in my life. So when, you know, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the dark night of the soul, and the dark night of the soul really is, it creates a space in your life so you can be with your shadow. And that for me was probably the most painful, most uncomfortable part of my whole reality. I mean, it got so painful at times where I was kind of like, you get into this place where you become kind of so suicidal, because like every single day I would wake up and I'd be in this like heavy depression. And this is another thing that people don't realize about the dark night of the soul, is it's a spiritual depression. And it's a real deep, dark place to be, because, you know, for so long I was able to stay above my trauma. For so long I was able to stay in bodybuilding, in my addictions, in my smoking of the weed and numbing myself out. When all of that was removed from me, I was like living in my shadow, and all of this pain, I was living in it for like long periods. And I'd go through like some points for like 2-3 weeks where every day I woke up and I was depressed every fucking day, to the point where I would want to literally end the working day, go home. It'd be like 5:30, and I'd be in bed. And the only thing I want to do is to sleep, because I didn't want to be in my existence. It was so uncomfortable and so painful for me to go through that. But what this really is, and what people need to understand, is when we live in a personal sense of self, our personal sense of self is a very low vibration. And so once we awaken and we touch and we experience consciousness, and in that moment we get such a glimpse of the vastness of it all and the intelligence of what it is, then there is a shift, there is a cleansing process that happens. And that cleansing process is the detaching from the sense of self. And that sense of self is a very, very low vibration, as I've just said. And it's a very painful vibration. So when people experience the dark night of the soul, it's really about the detaching from the pain, the detaching from the past. But that doesn't just happen from recognizing patterns. That happens through being stuck and contained within that vibration. You have to cleanse that vibration. So, you know, dark night of the soul, spiritual depression is all about cleansing your vibration. And I'm going to be doing a series on this soon, because there's a lot of misunderstanding around it. But, you know, I thought I'd bring it back and talk a little bit about it, because I'd imagine it's something that you've gone through on some kind of level or not. And so I thought if we share a little bit of that with the people that are tuning in, and just understand that it's not, you know, an awakening, a spiritual awakening, although you're touching the divine and realizing the divine. A spiritual awakening, a true spiritual awakening, is a very painful process. Yeah,
Well, I mean, I agree with you, man. I agree with you what you're saying. Like Dark Night of the Soul, I feel like I had a number of Dark Nights of the Soul in my life. I feel like Dark Night of the Soul even is probably even the wrong term for it, because for many people this is occurring monthly or even yearly, like on a yearly basis, that they have to go through this kind of pain and stuff, and it reveals all of this stuff to them from their shadow side and stuff they've been repressing. And like you said, like it's usually that pain would kind of bring that out of you. Like it's a very traumatic moment. I had certain moments like this, you know, even very embarrassing moments for me and stuff, you know what I mean? But it's really kind of dug deep within myself, and I had to kind of step back and kind of look at myself like, damn, like, you know what I mean? Like, look at my life, what's happening here. Do you know, my life is absolutely crumbled to bits here. You know, I had time when I was away in hospital for 3 months. I was on all types of medication from the doctor, you know what I mean? I came back home then, and this medication was kind of making me it was making me want to eat food all the time, and I couldn't stop myself from eating food, like, you know what I mean? So like I was, not only was I at home living with my mother and stuff, you know what I mean, things weren't going well, but I also had this food addiction too. So my looks, do you know what I mean? I'm anyway not fucking Brad Pitt out here, do you know what I mean? But you know, it's not nice to be fat or whatever, do you know what I mean? So I was eating myself to death there, and I couldn't control it. And that was a depressing thing that kind of came into my life, you know. So I had to deal with this then, you know. And it was a real process to get myself back on track, you know. And sure, I was meditating my way through it, but you know, even with the stuff that the doctors had me on, you know, I couldn't feel my meditations, you know what I mean? I was meditating, but I still wasn't feeling no contact from the divine, no nothing, you know. I wasn't feeling no energy, and I felt like basically like shit, you know. So that's when I kind of started digging deep, you know. And I had other moments where like my shadow side was really exposed to me, you know what I mean, by certain people, especially over in Germany, you know, because those motherfuckers really pissed me off. I didn't like being there one bit. I really didn't like him a lot, so I had to deal with a lot of stuff, you know, myself. But I kind of came to terms with it. I obviously forgave all those people and whatever. I'm cool with everyone, but I had one time when I was over there, and as I said, I was going through a tough time from childhood or whatnot. You know, my parents basically kicked me out of the house, and they said, "Go to Germany, go get a job for yourself." You know what I mean? You're 18 now. you don't want to go to college, go get a job. You're not staying under our house. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, go over there, get a job, whatever. And I basically hated every single day. Like those people there put me through absolute torture every single day. Nobody was friendly to me. You know, no smiles received, no nothing. Do you know what I mean? I said to people like good morning, and they ignored me. Like, you know what I mean? I just got totally ignored every single day. And I was like, you know, what's wrong with these people? Do you know what I mean? Like, do they have some kind of problem or what? Like, you know, I used to say like this, like good morning, you know, and they'd be like, they give me a head nod or something like that. Like, you know, I was like, what's your problem? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's your fucking problem? Do you know? And I dealt with this every single day, you know. And I remember just being over there because first of all, I got kicked out from my house from my parents, so I was over there in Germany on my own, and no friends, no nothing. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, my mind was already messed up from childhood. You know? My mind was already messed up from having a heroin addicted stepfather and from, you know, having addictions to porn and all this shit. You know what I mean? And also from school as well. I had a really bad school time and stuff. But so my mind was all messed up. And then on top of that, these German people, you know, as well, really put me under pressure every day. You know, no friendship. So I went into like isolation basically. And I was in my room. I was in my room over in Germany, and like, you know, my room was an absolute mess. Like, if you saw my room, you would have went, oh my god, like, who's living here? Is there a dog living in here or what? Like, there can't be a human living in here. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was bad. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't bother because I was just so fucked up in my head. You know, I had so many like depressing thoughts going on up here. I couldn't bring myself to go sort out my life. I just couldn't bring myself to. My room was an absolute mess or whatever. And like these two German guys, you know, one guy was an ex-military guy, so you can imagine. Do you know what I mean? There was another fella, he was an old guy. They was like, we're doing like room inspections here. We're coming up to look at your room.
Oh shit!
And I was like, you know, I was so numbed out in my head. I was so numbed out that I didn't really care. Like, do you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, grand. So I come up, you know, what is he gonna say to me now? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I've already heard everything from you, you know. So come up, you know. And they came up there, and you know, they just kind of looked at me like, you know, the look they gave me in that moment was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what they can look at me like, you know. And you know, they didn't know what the hell I was going through in my life. None of them knew what I was going through. They didn't know what I'd been through childhood wise. They didn't know the stuff, you know, that my stepfather put my mother through. They didn't know all this type of abuse that I've witnessed and stuff, you know. So my mind was messed up, but that triggered a thing in me that brought up a lot of shadow stuff. You know what I mean? It triggered this thing, like, you know, I kind of had to kind of really step back, you know, and I kind of said to myself, you know what, like, I may not like these people here, but so there's some truth in what they're saying. I am kind of really messed up at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, you know, no one should be living like this. You know what I mean? And you know, I kind of had to really be honest with myself. You know, and you know, I remember when I was 16 in Croatia, this dude over there introduced me to meditation, and that's when I kind of said to myself, you know what? I'm gonna start meditating like again. I'm gonna start doing this regularly, and I'm gonna start reading books. I'm gonna just start reading countless books on this stuff. You know, self-help. You know, I dove deep into it all. You know, I dove deep. I went online there. I downloaded hundreds of books, and I would every evening I'd spend just reading books like Ancient Masters, Ancient Texts, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, all of these business type people. I just wanted to learn something. I just wanted to find some way out of this absolute torture that's going on in my mind.
You know, that's how it was for me. It was like you kind of want to escape it, but for the people that are listening, when we find ourselves in like real times of struggle and we're feeling the emotional upheaval around them times of struggle, then, you know, that's the opportunity in which we learn about all of the stuff that holds us back in our lives. That's when we learn about the stuff that doesn't serve us. If you can look at every hard phase of your life, if you can see every hard phase of your life as not a phase of hardship, but a phase of learning. Now that's what I take away from mine. Like when I was going through this dark night of the soul and I was finding myself in this depression every day, it was an opportunity to really see what this depression was revealing to me, what this energy was revealing to me. You know, for so many of us, we're trying to escape our depression. We're trying to remove ourselves from negative thinking. We're trying to remove ourselves from feeling negatively. But if we can really see that any negative state you're experiencing is a lesson, and if we can really grasp that and understand that, you know, for me, when I was going through this phase of what I can only describe as like a real spiritual depression, here was my opportunity to learn. So every day I was being invited to stay in this, in my own pain and in my own suffering. And as I was kept confined within this suffering, I was becoming aware of all of the thought patterns and all of the thought structures that were attached to to this emotion as well. So I was starting to realize how I didn't want to do anything, how I wanted to hide away from the world, how I just wanted to cut off and disconnect. So what I was actually learning through being in this spiritual depression was all of these traumas and all of these ways in which I was coping in my life. You know, like the drugs and all of that were coping mechanisms. But I started to look at my at my depression as a way of teaching. And this is when I began to write. I have a book and it's right in front of me. And in that book, I have journaled some of the worst days in my life. And what I was journaling was the thought patterns, that what I was thinking on them days. And now when I look back, I can see that my old sense of self was really just a complete depression. I have stuff on. I was able, as I was becoming observant of what I was thinking, I was really able to see that my sense of self was built on trauma. So, you know, whenever we are going through these depressions and whenever we find ourselves forced into situations that make us feel negatively, that make us think negatively, it's an opportunity to look and to heal and to learn. And, you know, like you was just saying, like you was forced out into Germany, you was forced into your own trauma, you was forced into your own negativity. Just like for me, when I lost my family and I was living at my mum's house, I was forced into seeing it. No longer could me and you escape it. Life was pushing us into it, to be in it, to understand it, to release it and to heal it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, man. I get what you're saying totally.
And now, do you know, like what actually happens is the more aware you become of your subconscious or your unconscious programming, what actually happens when you're in that state, in that negativity for such long periods, and you're understanding it and you're seeing it later on in your life, when that thought might pop into your head like I can't be bothered, instantly it's identified and you recognize it as unconscious pain, and it just instantly comes up and it passes through you. You're so aware of what actually happens through your spiritual depression is you become so aware of your unconscious that you no longer identify with it. So for me, I come out of my spiritual depression and I would live in like weeks of bliss where I'd be like so like blissed out, so divinely connected. And then like I might have a thought that come up and said, oh, you're no good. Now back in the day, I would have identified with that thought and I would have been like, oh yeah, shit, I'm no good. I don't know what I'm doing in my life. And I'd instantly spiral into that depression. But where I'd stayed so long in that negativity and I understood everything that was associated with it, when that thought come up, it would just instantly pass through me because I was no longer identified with it. You know, as we go through healing, we go through emotional releasing. We're releasing and letting go. And, you know, one other tip for people that are watching, if you are going through hardship, the idea is not to fight it, just to be with the experience completely. Not to try to resist it, not to try to change it, not to try to escape it, but just completely harmonize with it. And even though it's shit, as soon as you begin to harmonize with it, you begin to learn from it, and you know that's part of the process.
I kind of used to have a similar type thing. You know, I was going through my pain or whatever, and instead of being with the pain, instead of being with that feeling, I was always trying to run away from it. I was always trying to mask it up, like with being like overly confident. Especially with the job I was doing, you know, I'd be coaching like 30 players or whatever, and I couldn't really be feeling nervous or whatever, because when you feel nervous in front of 30 people, you got to speak to them. You're not getting any respect there from them. You know what I mean? Like you got to be able to project your voice out and, you know, show these people that you mean what you say and you move like that. You know what I mean? You move, you know, as oneness. You know, you're not like, you don't really know what's going on up here. You can't project that out, you know, because you need to instill certainty in these people. You know, especially if you're a coach or whatever. So I did try to mask over it. I didn't want to be with my anxiety and stuff. You know, I kind of want to act like I don't feel anxiety. You know what I mean? But in my meditations, then what I done was I sat down in my meditation and I just started being at one with it. I started going into like deep states of meditation, you know. But this is when we go back to the start of my meditation journey. This is when I started at 16, but when I was 18 was when I didn't really know what I was doing still, you know. So I was smoking the weed too, like you said, you done drugs and stuff. And the weed was kind of a way to like quieten my mind. There's just so much stuff going on up here, you know. And I remember I smoked a nice joint there, like, you know, when I was in Germany, you know. I was crazy, man. I went to Amsterdam when I was 18. I went to Amsterdam about 4 times, you know. I went there twice just on my own, You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? I just went there twice a month, went in the coffee shop. I was like, "What you guys got?" I was like, "What's your strongest stuff you got?" Yeah, give me that. Give me that. Yeah, I'll take that. No bother. You know, and I just took the strongest stuff they had. I didn't even know what weed was. I'd never smoked weed up to this point. Just rolled it, and I just started smoking my head off. Do you know what I mean? And I went absolutely. I was on the moon, basically. You know what I mean? But I used to use this as like a way to kind of get away from my thoughts. You know what I mean? I was trying to run away from my thoughts. I didn't know about meditation, so I was mixing weed, and then I was meditating while I was high. I was trying all sorts of stuff. I was like, I wonder what would happen if I smoked like 10 grams of weed and then I go into a really deep meditation with like some mantra music on. I wonder what level I get on then. You know, back then for me, it was like I was looking for the experience. You know what I mean? I wasn't really
Yeah.
looking for the experiencer. You know, I didn't understand back then that I'm not this mind, I'm not this body, I am the oneness underneath it. I kind of knew a bit that, yeah, we're awareness, but I never really thought about it like that. You know, I never thought deeply about it, what I really am. And then eventually I started realizing, all right, this weed is doing me no good. You know, this weed is just, you know, it makes me good for 2 hours, and then I'm back down to feeling shit again. So this is not medicine for me, you know. Some people out there might help, whatever. For me, it wasn't for me, you know. But so yeah, I had to quit all that. I had to go through a long process, you know, of just being with my pain. I had to go through like sleepless nights, you know, especially when you're coming off weed. You know, you have to deal with all the insomnia and stuff. You know, I dealt with weeks of that. And then, you know, then I had to deal with the other medication and stuff they had me on. You know, I was in a hospital bed for like 2 weeks, shaking. You know, I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. You know, all sorts of stuff going on. So it was a painful process that I had to go through. And all the time I done this, I just remembered to like pray. You know, I remembered to pray in my dark times. You know, I had to pray every single night. You know what I mean? Because I kind of felt like if I pray tonight, there's going to be something out there that's just going to guide me, and it's going to lead me to something better in my life. You know what I mean? I just kind of felt that in my heart, like, you know. So I just remember to always kind of keep the faith there, you know, even when I'm going through tough times. And I was like, look, this pain and whatnot is something I just have to go through.
Yeah.
You know? And it's going to teach me something, like you said. You know, your pain teaches you a lesson from it. And I definitely learned many lessons through my pain, and I'm happy that it happened now, because I know now really how to help other people because of the stuff I've been through, you know. And you know Muji, we always talk about Muji.
Yeah.
Muji said that you need a certain level of pain in order to really achieve the true self. You know what I mean? He's like, pain really helps dig deep, you know what I mean? Because you uncover every type of shadow. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're kind of living in fairy tale land, life is all good, then you never really discover your shadow side. You know what I mean? You never really discover what's underneath there, you know. So pain can kind of dig deep, like, you know.
I remember because I went through like a real heavy, intense period. And I remember as I was going through that, I remember I would have nights, and quite a few nights on a trot, I went through the same thing where literally I would go to sleep, and as soon as I went to sleep, I would instantly go into a nightmare, right? I still have images, like I recall myself on many different times, and it felt like I was going into hell. Like I had nightmares that was so bad. I remember one night I had a nightmare, and I come out of it, back to sleep, straight back into another nightmare. Wake up, panicking, straight back into another night. One night, right, it was so bad, I ended up getting the Lord's Prayer, and I was reciting the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom. The experience was so intense for me, and I will never forget. I still remember this one dream in which I could paint the picture so vividly. Like it was, you know, I do believe, like, energetically there is a hell, an energetic hell, just like there is a heaven.
Yeah.
And as I went through what I class as the dark night of the soul, you know, as I was saying, as you're releasing these lower energies, these lower entities, that you know, you're being cleansed of that vibration. If you look at human beings now, yeah, when you see somebody committing murder, when you see somebody committing rape, when you see these acts of evil, it's not so much that we're looking at a person that's doing it. We're looking at pure consciousness identifying with lower forms of intelligence. So, you know, when we're seeing somebody act out in violence, it's not the purity of the person that's doing it. It's the energetic identifications that have taken over the pureness of that being. Does that make sense? when you come into this, your consciousness is like a clean slate. You come into this frequency, into this very low, denser, energetic vibration. What people don't realize, and this is quite like terrifying, but once you've, you know, as we access greater knowledge, you know, most people think that their personal sense of self is who they are, but most people don't realize that actually their personal sense of self is a leaching ground for lower vibrational frequencies, which are entities, to attach into the soul. So when you've got somebody that's like feeling like, and this is like completely normal, most people think this is completely normal, but when you enter into thinking and thought patterns of I'm not good enough, or what unworthiness or rejection, what you're actually dealing with, that is a psychic attachment. You have a psychic attachment in your consciousness, and that psychic attachment, when you identify with that psychic attachment, when you identify with being unworthy, your consciousness, the pureness of your consciousness, is feeding into that entity. That entity is living off your consciousness by your identification with it.
Yeah.
So when you go for an awakening, you're breaking your consciousness, your God mode is breaking off all of these lower attachments. And as these lower attachments get broken off, that is when you go through that process of emotional releasing. And that emotional releasing, you're releasing these dark negative entities, and that is when you're going through this cleansing phase. So anybody that's going through this true cleansing phase is detaching from these negative frequencies, these negative entities that are feeding off our souls. This is real deep spiritual knowledge and intuition.
Like, I agree with you, man. Like, I think that as we try to rise up in consciousness and we try to get better, by law, there must be an opposing force which is trying to push us back down. Like, there's duality in everything, you know. So we want to rise up. Everything here is trying to rise and get better. There's something else out there that's trying to kind of push you down. You know what I mean? And I feel like the more that we try to improve ourselves, you know, the more that these tests from the other entities get stronger. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I said about my PlayStation game analogy, you know. But I really think this is life, basically. So you got like level 1, you go through there's like a boss, like a little test. You come past the boss, and you're on like level 2 then. You know what I mean? And then level 2 is you've raised up in your consciousness a bit. Okay, you have to get a bit better. But the boss of level 2 then is he's a bit more clever, this boss, you know. He's a bit more, he's going to throw a few more illusions at you. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
he knows your weaknesses.
Yeah, that's it. Because, you know, like Maya, the earth and stuff, this is all illusions. You know what I mean? Everything here is illusions. You know, the TV is illusions. You know, people are acting some way, but they're not really that way. It's an illusion. You got to see through it. You know what I mean? If you can't see the truth of the situation, you can't see clearly, you can't pass on to level 3. So this is like where your awareness kind of comes in, you know. So like level 2, you pass that, the boss, he's going to be a bit more tricky, you know. And that's why the power of awareness is so good, because like intelligence, like people don't realize, like intelligence is clear seeing, your ability to see, you know. Your ability to see is intelligence, you know. The stuff you learned from your college or whatever, this is your intellectualism, you know what I mean. This is just gathered knowledge, but this has absolutely, this can't help you within the now. Like true intelligence is your ability to see the now and to respond to the now, you know. And all this stuff you learned from like college and stuff, this is putting you in like linear reality, you know what I mean. And this linear processor up in your brain, this linear processor can't function in the now, because you're in the now and someone asks you a question and you immediately have to refer to this linear processor up here for your answer. Like, oh, what was it in that college book that I learned from? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's all gathered, you know. But when you're fully in the now and you're calm within yourself, you know, you kind of just know how to respond to this person, you know what I mean. You go off instinct and stuff like this, you know, and you see through illusions, you know. So that's why I say, like, you know, it's powerful to be a meditative person. When you're a meditative, you see through things and you can progress on then. And this opposing force, you kind of cleverer than it. So, but never kind of be chilled and kind of think, oh, it's all good, I'm on cloud 9 now, you know, I'm improving my life. Because as soon as you relax and you stop being aware, that force will come straight back into your life and try and push you back down.
If this is the key behind real powerful healing, and this is why I say to feel your emotions, because whenever you resist or whenever you push against or whenever you identify, you feed in. So what I learned over the years is I'd have, you know, when I went through my sort of dark depression, I understood all of these energetic attachments, and now, you know, I no longer feed into these attachments. They might rise up, but there's no ground, there's no holding on. And if you look at consciousness, consciousness as a whole is a purity. It's purified being. And as we
Yeah.
go through the awakening is purifying our being. And even if you can look at all of these entities, and these entities are human created. They are created by humans. You know, by our sleep-like nature. But even when you're like people that have been sexually manipulated in their mind, again, you're looking at more attachment. Everything that manipulates you on an emotional, on a mental level, is an attachment. And now, if you begin to really look at attachments on a different kind of light, an attachment. What have you just done? Have you just put me on loudspeaker or something?
Oh, is it an echo? Is it?
Yeah. What did you change?
No, I put you on the table, man. That's probably it. I'll move you away now. Yeah. Is that better now? You're on the same type frequency.
Is that better?
Yeah.
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 So,
All right.
you know, as we raise up in vibration, we're really cutting off all of these lower frequencies. But you know, at the same time, we can look at them as very negative in their nature. But at the same time, they serve for awakening, for the purpose of awakening. And so we can't really define.
They serve because we need them to get better.
Yeah, we need them to realize what the truth is. We need, yeah, we need contrast, you know.
Yeah, like we need we need a hurdle in order to get over that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's why the opposing force is kind of there, because you know it has to be there so we can be like, you know, it's like it'll throw an illusion at us, but okay, we can learn from this type thing and we'll become a better person then. You know, whereas if there was no kind of competition, we'd just be, you know, just stay on level one. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like the same. I love using like the comedian analogy, because like with comedians, you know, like comedians start out and they do a show in front of like 20 people or whatever. You know, they do a show in front of 20 people and there's not so much pressure or whatever, but you kind of got to make them laugh or whatever. You can make them laugh, well done. You know, you kind of move on then and you do a show in front of 150. You know what I'm saying? You kind of move up and you do well. Okay, there's more pressure and stuff, but fucking phone is going off, man. But there's more pressure, and you know you can do a show in front of 1,000. Then you know what I mean. But the more that you rise up, the more this pressure is going to be there in order to perform and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I feel like the more you develop in consciousness, the more you can take on, and the more you can handle. You know, everybody. What's that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Everybody receives only what they're ready to receive, and you know, most people, they want to receive more than what they can handle. So, say for instance, you know, if you're a person that suffers with anxiety, you're not going to receive situations that create a situation for which you can't handle. You know, and that's the same as me as I go through my spiritual awakening and my purpose on this planet. I'm not going to be put in front of 15,000 people instantly because I haven't developed the capacity to handle that yet.
Exactly.
So as you grow in intelligence, as you become more conscious, you begin to receive at the level of consciousness that you're at. So for me, when I was in a real low level consciousness, I was on drugs. I didn't have any money. I was a thief. I was stealing. I was doing all kinds of stuff because that's the level in which I was at to be receiving. Because my level of consciousness was so low, I could only receive on a low level. And then obviously, as my consciousness has raised, I've been able to receive a lot more. So now what I receive now compared to what I received before my awakening are like night and day. But my consciousness is still rising. It's still rising. It's still developing. And as it picks up more pace, which means it becomes more expansive, more connected, more realized, I gain in what I can receive. You can only receive on the level in which your consciousness is at. And I think, you know, again, these are kind of just like realizations and truths you come to as you delve more deeper into consciousness. You know, Mum, I posted a video up here about how not to worry or dealing with worry or something like that the other day. And I see my mum at work today, and she was like, I watched that video on dealing with worry, and it went straight over my head, and I was like, for me, that video seemed really simple. It seemed like a really simplistic what the message I was trying to convey.
Yeah, yeah.
But my mum wasn't able to hear that because her levels of consciousness
Low
are
enough.
not high enough to receive that. And that's the problem me and you have, Tom, with spiritual teachings. When we're talking spirituality, most people can't receive the level in which we're teaching from because their consciousness doesn't allow them to receive it at that level. Does
Exactly.
that
I
make
totally
sense?
get you, man. 100%. I know what you're saying. Like just
So
the other
me and
day,
you are like talking to a brick wall a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean?
like just the other day
No
when we had the
disrespect,
live,
anyway.
when we
Much love
done the
to
live
everybody.
the other
Hold
day,
on.
right? You know, I done my live, yeah, and you know, someone came in and they were like, "Do they understand you what you're talking about?" And I was like, you know, that's a bit disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like what do you think? I'm just out here speaking rubbish, do you? Like, I was like, there are people out there. I think that they do understand me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, but like I said, like their level of consciousness, some people they just can't grasp it. You know what I mean? It's not going in the head. You know, but what happens is like I think you know when you're not reached a higher level of consciousness, you receive information up here first. It goes through the processor. You know, you're trying to work it out. And then the time that you kind of think you got it, you know, the other person's already said another 10, 20 sentences, you know what I mean? So that's why you can't really follow along, you know what I mean? Like I had this situation with another awakened person over there, like over there in America and stuff. We were chatting away and our conversation was going back and forth at light speed, you know what I mean? We were heading, like we do sometimes, you know what I mean? Like we head back and forth, just information flying out. We don't know where it's coming from. And there was someone else there and they were just looking at us like, what the hell are these people on about? You know what I mean? Like they just didn't get it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of it. Like you know, like higher level of consciousness, you can kind of. But one thing there, just quickly before you go on, is Joe. I think that as you raise up, you know, your level of responsibility goes up too. You know, so that's why like God has to kind of like test you in a way to see like are you ready for the big stage.
Are you ready for the next level? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He has to see you're ready for it. You know what I mean? So that's
Are
why
you
I say
ready to
like,
receive more?
exactly, like, you know what I mean? That's why I say, like, with the comedians too, like, you know, like, you can do a show in front of 1,000, like, that's your test, you know what I mean? You got to first prove yourself here, you know what I mean? Prove yourself what when this guy in the crowd says to you, oh, you're not funny, you're rubbish, you know what I mean? How are you going to respond to that? If you're centered within yourself, you know what I mean? And you know what to say, like, you know what I mean? If you think you're good, then you come up here. Let's do like a little dual act or something like that. You know what I mean? If you're centered and you can overcome this hurdle, God would be like, okay, this person here's the real deal. You know what I mean? I'm going to give them a show now with
Let's give him
20,000
some
people.
more.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but you got to overcome the hurdles. You know what I mean? You got to prove that you're about that life. Because with
Yeah.
responsibility, let's say that someone just gives you now like 1 million followers, grounded_UK, you know, or me. Let's say they give me 1 million followers, just like that. Boom, right? And I go out there and I'm just like preaching some kind of message, but I'm not really about that life. You know what I mean? I haven't proved it yet. You've got a lot of responsibility. You know, you could influence a whole lot of people out here. You know, you could change a whole lot of people's lives for the good, or you could change it for the worse.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's why, like, it's kind of like you got to like prove yourself over time. Like,
Yeah.
and this is how you kind of really gain a reputation for whatever you're doing, even in your job. You know what I mean? Say you start a new job or say you start a new business, your first week or two, people are just kind of getting to know you. You know what I mean? They don't know you after the first week or two. Let's say like goes 1 or 2 months, so they're kind of starting to get to know you. But after like a year of consistently being on point with your stuff, then they're kind of like, all right, we can count on this person now. You know what I mean? Like you've proved it. Like you know, you've proved it to people, and that's what people kind of need. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
People
that's a
need.
great analogy.
Yeah, like
Love that.
so.
Love that.
That's just the way I kind of feel about it. You know what I mean? You know, it's all about reputation because reputation and stuff is a powerful thing. Like, you know what I mean? Once you're a powerful person, you could be either Hitler or you could be a Donald Trump or you could be, do you know what I mean? You could be, who's a good person?
Princess Diana.
Who?
Princess Diana.
Yeah, or Princess Diana. I don't know about all her and stuff, but yeah, you know, if she's good, she's good. You know what I mean? So.
You know what? I'm going to say, do you know what? I think that was brilliant what you actually just said there. It was a really good analogy or a way to point out what we're actually saying. Awakening projects just put butterflies speak to caterpillars. And this is so true because when I first come to Awakening, you know, I read stuff like my first book was Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now. And when I opened up that page, it said, "You are not your mind." Now, at the time, I had no idea what Eckhart Tolle was pointing to, but there was a resonance within me. Something was like, I get that. I don't understand it, but I get it. And that's the difference between a butterfly and a caterpillar is somebody that is able to go into the cocoon stage. Not
Yeah.
everybody is a caterpillar. Most people, most people are not even in a caterpillar stage. A caterpillar stage is saying, I am receptive. I might not understand what you're saying, but there's a part in me that gets this. I don't understand it mentally. I can't comprehend it mentally. I can't recognize it as a full-blown realization, but there is something in me that recognizes the truth in what you're saying. That's the caterpillar stage. And the more you keep yourself receptive to that, you begin to enter into your own cocoon. And that's what I
Yeah.
done, you know. I didn't understand what Eckhart Tolle was saying, but something resonated. I stayed with it. I found it. I started to follow more and more and more receptivity, going into the cocoon stage, full-blown awakening, going through the process, coming out the other end. So you
Yeah.
don't, you know, to even being to be a caterpillar is even a goddamn blessing on this planet.
You
You know,
know what I
because
think? I think like you know, in order to be receptive, you have to kind of want to be yourself. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like you can't be in a receptive state if you're still trying to be someone else or trying to be like someone else, and that's the problem for so many people out here. Like you know, you look at the caterpillar. You know, the caterpillar doesn't look at it like a cat and say, "Oh, I wish I was a cat. Those cats are so cool." You know what I mean? Or like it's the same with all animals in nature. Like there's no animals out here trying to be something else than they're not. You know what I mean? And all animals are like beautiful in their own way. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you know, the bird is beautiful, you know, in its own way. Like the tiger is also beautiful. Like no one is equal, but they're all kind of unique and they're all equal at the same time. You know what I mean? But problem with us humans where we're not receptive is because like a lot of people go into meditation or whatever, and they kind of get this idea about like some other cool spiritual person they see or something like this, you know, and like they're kind of trying to work on themselves, but like in the back of their mind, like their ego still wants to become something else that isn't them. And that's what I feel is one of the biggest distractions out here, you know what I mean? For a lot of people, like just trying to be something you're not, like, you know what I mean? You just have to like be who you are, you know, and just say to yourself, like, look, this is who I am. Do you know what I mean? I'm not Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? I'm not this Instagram person I look up to or whatever. I'm just me. You know what I mean? And once you really accept you fully and stuff, you know what I mean? Then you build up your love and you become a great person and stuff. And you go through the full awakening process. You know what I mean? But you can't go through your full awakening process if there's still someone up here that wants to become something else in some type of way. You know what I mean? You have to be fully at one with yourself. And that's just what I feel is one of the most important things for awakening, John. Bit off topic, maybe. Yeah, but just where my mind
oh
went.
no, that's good though, mate, because that's how we flow. We just go off the top, you know how we do it.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
know what? Awakening projects just put break from the illusion to become the caterpillar, and I feel like breaking from the illusion is that point in which you begin to challenge your life. Really, challenge. You know, want that inner urge for transformation. I think
Yeah.
that's when you begin to break with illusion. You know, for me, I spent my whole life, and for some reason, I had this urge. I wanted to be successful by the time I was 30. That I don't know why, but 30 was a mark point where I was saying, I want to be, by 30, I want my life sorted. By 30, this is, and it was with me for forever, right? 29, boom, full blown awakening, turn 30 in an absolute fucking mess.
Yeah.
But do you know, as touching a little bit upon what we were saying, I feel like, you know, with consciousness, as we're raising up in consciousness and we are receiving more in our lives, at the same time, like you said, consciousness is still testing. It's still testing to see, is there any low vibrations in this guy still? Is there still uncertainty in him? Is there still unworthiness in him? Is there still rejection in him? So you know what I'm saying? Like consciousness is continually testing you to purify you more. Oh, he's more purified, receive more purified, receive more purified, receive more. Oh, hold on, little blockage. Okay, you can stay here for a minute, work through the blockage, cut more
Yeah.
changes. Is that blockage still there? No, that blockage is cleared. Okay, receive more, receive more, receive.
Yeah. Like I think what you're saying there is interesting, you know, because it's kind of important as well, like if you're on the spiritual journey that you're living your life right, I feel. Like you gotta be living your life in a nice type manner, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people out here they're kind of selfish with the stuff which they gain, you know what I mean? Like they gain a lot of love and they gain a lot of joy within. And I don't really want to share that out to the world. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to give love. They're like, oh, I feel good in myself. You know, this I'm gonna use this in order to beat other people now. You know what I mean? I'm gonna use my You know, let's say that you get your chakras aligned and stuff like this, you know what I mean? And you're able to like see through people. You're able to like see into them. You're able to see past the illusions. Like, I'm going to use this to kind of get ahead now. You know what I mean? You got like your ego has an agenda in the back. You know what I mean? Your ego has got its own little agenda. Wants to kind of use these spiritual powers for some kind of some manipulation of people and stuff like this. You know what I mean? And if you
To
ever do this,
amplify itself.
yeah, like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I use this analogy, you know, like awareness is the key that the ego uses to get in the door. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So your ego is kind of using this newfound awareness, because with awareness comes beautiful presence. You know what I mean? You can have attention of people and stuff like this, you know. So, you know, the people are in their awareness, and then the ego is kind of lurking in the background, waiting for a moment when they can kind of, you know, when they can come in and like be the dominating force here, and you know what I mean, and kind of be the best. You know what I mean? Like, but it's about kind of recognizing that we are all one. You know what I mean? And not to kind of you know, not to kind of let that ego come in, because that will keep sinking you down. And in a way, like we were saying, that opposing force, you know, that what I believe the opposing force is out here, you know, I believe that's the ego. Do you know what I mean? I believe the ego is like the thing, because everywhere we look, this opposing force is in it. People are trying to give us ego. You know, the TV is trying to give us ego. Music's trying to give us ego. People in work trying to give us ego. You know, the things they say to us, you're not good enough, you need to be this, you need to be that. It's all trying to build ego.
Yeah.
Anytime we try to build something, we're going away further from ourselves. So this is the opposing, the illusion type thing, you know what I mean?
Well, we are in a fear-based reality. This is such a low vibrational density that we're in. It is a fear-based reality. So even our bodies are set up for survival, you know. So most human beings are functioning within the realms of fear and survival. That's how most people are functioning. And because we're functioning out of this fear-based kind of survival, we've created a sort of a low vibrational collective entity that human beings are attached to. You know, we are attached to fear. That's what we live off. That's what most of us are living off. And so as we begin to raise up in vibration, we have that energetic pull from fear trying to pull us back in. If you look at ego, like ego is like it serves us in some way. Wait, hold on, my battery's just come up. So should last till 10:30. Because I do not want to lose this live. We've been losing too many lives. Okay, I've got 13.
Your phone in, man. Please go plug your phone in.
I've got 13. Wait, what time did we start this live? Well, this live's going to end in 2 minutes. Around about, yeah, it's going to end in 2 minutes. But we'll definitely take up some of this content. Look, a little bit of an opportunity. If you want to find these videos, because you're only going to find little short snippets on our Instagram feed. If you want to find these videos, they will be being archived on YouTube. Tom's YouTube is...
It's Cool Breeze432. Along with the Instagram, you can see there yourselves, Cool Breeze432.
And then my YouTube... Yeah, my YouTube is grounded_UK. So I'm going to cut this off, Tom, because I really want to save this. There's been some good stuff. Yeah, as always, a pleasure. And then I'm just going to read out Awakening Project. You'll always be tested. Healing is a spiral. And I think that's an important message to take away, that whenever we pass through one layer, there's always another layer. There's always something that needs to be healed. And it is a continual journey. And I think that's all part of the process. But anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. But thank you.
You got anything else you want to put in before we roll, Tom?
What's that?
Have you got anything else you want to add before we go?
What, in like 20 seconds, is it?
They ain't come up yet, so all I know is we started at past and it's now 9:30, so I'm sure it's going to come up in a minute.
I don't have any more really to say, man. Well, obviously there's more to say, but you got to go check my Instagram for that, you know what I'm saying?
Nice, Tom.
All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning in, yeah?
Thanks, everybody that's tuned in. Tom, I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Speak to you soon.
Catch you, mate. Bye.